stay with that. You stay with that. Hello, everyone. Let's try that again. Hello, everyone. All right. That's the kind of enthusiasm that an all-church meeting requires. Welcome to you all. I'm glad to see you here. Grateful to see you here. Grateful to see you here. It gives us a good idea of, that you love in your church and you care about what's going on. So, you've now been welcomed. I'm going to pray us in, and then we're going to jump right in because I want to be respectful of your own time. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we do thank you tonight. We thank you that we're all here safe and sound and able to go home, hopefully safe and sound as well. I pray that you'd be with us tonight, that you'd guide us and strengthen us and help us to hear all of the things going on in your church that we can be a part of and serve in. And I just pray that you'd watch over us and help us to listen to what's being said with open ears and open hearts, and just be ready to jump into the next big thing that you have for us. I just pray that you'd be with us tonight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. All righty. Jeremy, let's jump right in.
All right. Do I take one of these? Hey there, guys. So we're going to talk just a little about worship and update you on a few things going on with Anona and worship. Kind of looking back from summertime till now, till mid-fall, in our contemporary service, one of the big projects we've been working on actually since I think it was probably early to midsummer in contemporary was replacing the sound system in there. That building was built over 20 years ago now, and sadly the equipment is showing it. And so there was a need to replace the speakers and amps and a lot of the main housing of the sound system. Jonathan did an awesome job working with his team and working with trustees and getting a company out to handle that. It is now done. We have a much better balanced coverage of the room and sound, so it should feel and sound better, and we can fix things because it's more current parts. So we're very glad that that project is done in contemporary there. In our traditional service, we are continuing our search for the organist and traditional director, and Susan's going to be talking about that, and I think me too, a little bit later in our SPRC time, so we'll talk about that one a little later. But the big thing I want to lift up is a big, big thank you for our interim team that is helping to make that happen, and there's one of them here today. Barbara Nelson's in the back there, so thank you, Barbara. She has come out of retirement to play organ. She's done the work for years, and this is what I love about retired musicians. They do it all their life, and then they retire, and then we call on them and say, hey, you want to do a little more for a while? So she has just willingly dove right back in, and she's helping us with organ and hymns and accompanying some of our groups as well. And then we also have Ann Waite that stepped out of retirement as well to help us. She's not here tonight, but thank you, Ann. She's helping to accompany our sanctuary choir in some of our special events that we've been doing as well. And then Art Hansold has been helping us with our orchestra and especially our brass group and some of our ensembles. So we appreciate Art stepping into that as well. So we've just got a great team and that interim working with us as we're continuing the search. And as well, just a big thanks to Penny Colba, who is always just amazing at getting things done. So a big help and a thank you to Penny for all the work that she does. So to make the fall happen, because we don't have the full-time person on staff yet, we've modified our schedule for the fall. So we don't have all the groups back out and rolling, but we have several of the main ones. We do have our sanctuary choir, we have our classical choir, our classical ensemble, and then we have our orchestra that just recently started back up there. So we've got 3 of the groups now getting ready and working on music for the fall there. We just, what's that? Bells, I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me for bells. Bells are always here. We love the bells. They run so well on their own. We don't need to worry about them. So but Bells is back as well there. We also just recently had a really fun weekend event. One of the things we wanted to do for our sanctuary choir was they talked about really wanting to continue their education. How do we continue to grow? How do we continue to learn? We're very eager. And what I love is people at any life stage saying, hey, I want to learn. I want to grow. And so we just completed this past weekend our, we've done these before, but not in a while, a choir workshop and retreat. We were here in our chapel. We spent the day over at Florida Botanical Gardens at a theater that they had in that location, and then we had a big Sunday morning where they presented a few pieces in worship. We had a guest director and educator, Omaris Torres Fry, who is just a well-known music teacher in the Orlando area, and she's the associate conductor of the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay. If you've ever heard them sing, it's a professional choral group over in Tampa. So just had a great retreat weekend with them. So they have been excited about that. As we're looking ahead, it was a great weekend. We really appreciate our team helping with that. As we're looking ahead, guys, of course, we are getting very close to Thanksgiving and Advent and Christmas. And so we are busy, busy, busy at work for that. Our worship committee is working with Family Ministry, and they just came up with a Hanging of the Greens event. So mark your calendars for Wednesday, November 29th. Hope I'm not stealing your thunder on this one. All right, I'm going to take it anyways. Wednesday, November 20th. What was the time on it? I do need to, because I don't remember the time. Was it 6? 5:30. We're looking for families to come and help us decorate for the church. We'll have music, we'll have pizza for you. We put the ornaments on the tree, we help with boughs, and just kind of help prepare our contemporary service, our traditional service, our kids service, our youth room. And it's just a chance for people to kind of gather as a family there and to help decorate. So that's coming up on Wednesday, November 29th. And then in our contemporary service, Jonathan and Gideon and Kim and a whole team of people with them are working on some of the stage redesigns and getting ready for Advent and Christmas. So they're coming up with some cool ideas on how we can thematically celebrate the holidays there visually in our contemporary service. And our traditional service over here, we're in the midst of planning our annual Christmas cantata. That's our Christmas musical with the choir and orchestra. That is scheduled for Sunday, December 10th. So mark your calendars for that one. We've got some great music planned for that morning. And then Christmas Eve this year, guys, is going to be a little different for two reasons. Number one, Christmas Eve is on a Sunday, so that makes things a little complicated for us. And so the plan for Christmas Eve this year is rather than have our 3 normal morning services, our 8 o'clock traditional, 8:15, 9:30 contemporary, and our 11 traditional, we will simply have one morning service. So we will have one morning service on Christmas Eve, 10 a.m. We're going to have it in here, not that it's traditional, but this is an easier room to operate technology-wise. And so we're trying to give as many of our volunteers that morning off because they're going to be working a lot that evening. And so we do try to have a simplified morning there. So there will be one service 10 a.m. in here if you'd like a morning service. But we're really hoping that you come back Christmas Eve that night, because that night we're going to do something a little different. We will have 2 Christmas Eve services, one at 6 o'clock and one at 8 o'clock p.m. But what we'll be doing is we'll be setting these services up very similar to what we did with our 150th celebration. Were any of you all here the Sunday we did the big 150th, the fair amount? Okay. If you weren't, what we did, this was the first time where we actually live linked our worship buildings. So we had our traditional sanctuary and our contemporary worship center, and we have the technology now. Jonathan's done a great job with this, setting up the technology to live link the rooms with video and sound to, is it less than a millisecond delay, I think? Right about a millisecond delay. So it's just enough where the lips slightly are off from the words. So don't stare at the lips too closely. But it's really an opportunity for us to have a combined service. So when you come that night, whether you come at 6 or 8, you can come to either location. You can come and sit in contemporary. You can sit in traditional. We will have choirs and orchestra and musicians here. We'll have the full band in our contemporary. And we will run the service together simultaneously. So the band will be playing, we'll be singing in here, the orchestra and choir will be singing, they'll be singing over there. We'll have pastors in both locations, we'll be talking about the message for the day. So it's just a really neat opportunity to celebrate such a special night, but also in a different manner. So we encourage you guys to mark your calendars, 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock for Christmas Eve to be a part of that celebration as well. And I think that's about it for worship. And I think we have up next is our Grow. So Casey's going to come up and talk to us about what's going on with Men's in the Grow.
Yay. Men's in the Grow. That's fun. Hi, everybody. Hey. Okay, cool. I've got a few updates for us. First thing is Family Ministries. As everybody knows, our big thing right now is Halloween Town. We've got a couple star students here. So Halloween Town is the big one, of course, and everybody already knows what Halloween Town is, all that stuff. What I wanted to do is actually lift up a huge celebration. Anona is notoriously the church of the 11th hour, which I say with so much love. What that means is We always get it done. We just do it right at the last minute. But not this time, guys. Sign-ups for Halloween Town are going so well, and I just want to say thank you if you're online, if you're in person. So grateful. Trunks are halfway full, the last time I checked, so still plenty of opportunity to do that, but they're halfway full. Our parking team is almost completely full, so if you want and Jackie is celebrating. We've got some parking people right in here, and we told you guys that was a big need, and you delivered, so it just means so much that you guys you're listening, and you're helping, and you're doing all of the things. So there's still plenty of room to serve if you didn't sign up yet. The games, there's absolutely no one that signed up for games, so Bonnie was a little concerned today. So the next need is games, so go do your thing. Go work your magic with the games. Tear down. Surprise, surprise. No one wants to stay after the event and clean it all up. Guys, I can't imagine why. But if you do it, it'll go really quick and we'll have a lot of fun. And you can always say that you were there. You know you want to. So thank you. Pardon? And the after party where Richard buys us all dinner. See? Tear down for everyone. Tear down for everyone. So Halloween Town, yay. The other big thing that's coming up with family ministry and adult education is our all ages Advent study. So excited. This is going to be our 5th all ages study that we've done. We started these not this past summer, but the summer before that. Just wanting to try something different, to try and connect all of the members of our church families, to try and give us the chance to be with people in different worship services from different backgrounds, to give our parents a time to come out and be able to grow alongside their kids. We just tried it, and it just worked, and we're so grateful that you guys love it, and so we're going to keep doing it as long as you love it. So we're back for another one. So all ages Advent study. Actually, our kickoff is the hanging of the greens that Jeremy was mentioning. But what Jeremy forgot to mention is there's going to be pizza there. Yes. Pizza. Yeah, pizza and hot chocolate. Yeah. Uh-huh. I'll see you there. It's a combo. We like it. We'll see you there. Okay, so please come out and kick it off with us with the Hanging of the Greens on the 29th. And then December 6th, 13th, and 20th. It's a quick study, guys, because Advent does go pretty quick. And Easter will be right upon us. Or Easter? Easter will be upon us, y'all. I know my church calendar. So just 3 weeks. So feel free to sign up online. Sign-ups aren't up yet, but once they are, go and do it. And come on, and we'll do dinner, and it'll be so much fun. So that's Family Min. Thank you guys for your support with that. Just a huge, huge celebration for our family ministry directors, Megan, Jen, Bonnie. Jackie is on missions, but also Family Min. We have the best team, and it really just takes so much work. Our volunteers, we're just so grateful. So none of these big things could be possible without our team. So just a huge celebration. I'm just the one with the microphone, but really it's all them doing it. So a huge thank you to that team. The next thing I'm going to touch on before I pop out for the last week of the Unclobber class is the diversity and inclusion work we've been doing here at Anona, which is something that I'm really grateful for and really proud of us for doing. A lot of us were here and were able to take part of the listening and learning sessions this summer. I'm seeing some nodding heads. Those were super well received, where we got to hear from members of our church family that are in the LGBTQ plus community and just get to hear some stories and get to grow in our empathy and understanding. And they were just so well attended and got such great feedback. So really grateful that we all made room and made space for that. Tonight, as I was mentioning, is the last night of the Unclobber book study, which has just offered simply another perspective of the passages in Scripture that people often wrestle with when it comes to the idea of inclusion. And again, just getting to lead that class has been one of the most meaningful things I've gotten to do in my ministry career. So for me, it's just such a touching and moving thing, and I can't thank us enough for even being open. We've had such a great time in that class, just being able to really wrestle and share and just get in there and have the conversations that a lot of us are talking about having, to actually just be able to have those conversations. So just lifting up that group. Tonight's the last night of it, so I see a couple of my Unclobber people in here. If you notice a mass exodus right around 7 p.m., no one's mad. we're just going to go to class. But just really celebrating that. A couple upcoming things, if you are interested in this work, maybe you haven't ever been a part of this stuff before and you're just curious about the conversation, there's a couple opportunities that are coming up. The first one is on Monday, October 16th at 6:30 p.m. These are all on the website too, you don't have to remember. But that one's gonna be a presentation from Shirlene, and I blank on her last name, but she is from Metro Inclusive Health. They're a nonprofit down in St. Pete, and they're just really committed to providing healthcare to all different kinds of populations, a lot of folks that don't typically have access to such things. And they're really a big advocate and support for healthcare for the LGBTQ plus community. She is actually the faith-based community liaison for that organization. So she's gonna come and just share different ways that we might be able to partner together with them as ways that Anona could serve our neighbors a little bit better. So if you're interested in a lot of the hands-on stuff, I know some of us are like, we don't wanna read books, we just wanna go do stuff. Great. Come to this presentation and hear what she has to say and see if maybe something catches your eye or maybe you want to learn more about something. And then the second one is a documentary showing that we're going to show on November the 6th. I'm super bummed I'm out of town for this, but it is on Monday, November 6th. We're going to do pizza at 5:30. Methodists. And then we're going to show the film at 6. It's a documentary called Pray Away. And this one is a pretty hard watch. I've started watching it at home. You can watch it on Netflix. And I've had to watch it in doses. It's people that are sharing their stories with going through conversion therapy and different organizations that were really pushing that, especially maybe 10, 20 years ago, and their experiences with it. What I like about it for our church is that there's no narration over top of the folks getting interviewed. So it really is just presenting different stories from people, and it leaves you and I to be able to come to our own conclusions. So especially if you might be newer to this conversation or hesitant, this is something that it's not, at least from what I've watched, I'm about 3/4 of the way through, it's not something that's gonna shove something down your throat or anything like that. It's really just, here are people's stories, here are people's experiences, and do with that what you will. And as we always say, you know, Methodists, we want to teach each other how to think, not what to think. So go and draw your own conclusions. But we invite everyone to be a part of that conversation and just perhaps hear, regardless on where we stand on things, people are people. Can we all agree on that? And for me, I think people deserve to be listened to, and they deserve to be heard and understood. And I think the church should be the one leading that charge to meet people where they are and seek to love without judgment, no matter what. So I think that can be accomplished regardless of any opinion on the matter. I think that we can all seek to love and understand and treat humans as humans a little bit better. So you're invited to come and be a part of that. If we want to say that we're open hearts, open minds, open doors, let's mean it, right? So thanks, love ya. I don't know who's next, but that's all I had. Oh, Dave's next. Okay, bye.
I'm very short next. Cool. Okay, thanks, Casey. And I'm going to talk really slowly after that. No, seriously. We're going to move on to another section, a subset of Grow. Sandy, would you come tell us what's going on with ACDC?
Hi, I'm Sandy O'Brien, and it's my joy to be able to be the chairperson right now of the preschool committee, the board of directors for our ACDC Child Development Center. And there are several of us who are on that board, and some of us are here tonight. So if you're here, I'm going to call your names if you'll raise your hand so that we know who you are. We have Betty Ray Ivy serves on that committee. And Gail Silvernail serves on that committee. I mean, Karen Silvernail, excuse me. Gail Robertson couldn't be here tonight, but she's also, that Gail is on the committee. Larry Cottrell is on the committee. And myself. Our pastor representative is Pastor Richard. And of course, Marion, our preschool director, is on that committee and does a lot of the leading of it. So we are representing you. And so what we are doing is coordinating the big church with the preschool. We are advocating for them. We are cheering them on. We're encouraging the physical responsibility for the preschool, and it is doing beautifully. We're off to a new year, and it's going so well. If you are on the staff of ACDC, raise your hand. I see several of you out there. Yes. We have absolutely the best staff in the whole world. They are conscious, disciplined, focused, and the children are the winners all the way around because it's a beautiful atmosphere. My heart is so joyful every single time I get to go in that area. And we thank all of you who are staff members. We have the very, very, very best in the world. We do have several changes this year. To meet the needs, the public school has picked up so many of the 4-year-old VPK programs that this year we have reduced from 2 to 1 VPK. But also to meet the needs of the future, we have added an extra 1-year-old class. So we now have 2 1-year-old classes, but only 1 VPK. And we have expanded the 2s and the 3s. And we also have a very active before and after school program. Right now, we have 84 children in our preschool and 30 children, which is a full house, in our after school program. At the same time this year, we had 71 preschoolers and 24 in the elementary program. So we do have an increase, and we are building this year. We have 27 brand new families, and people are coming in to look through the school and visit and observe, and we're just, we're thriving and growing. And not that we don't have obstacles, but it's a wonderful place to be. So I just want to share with you that your Anona Child Development Center is growing, is thriving, and it's something that our church can be so proud of, because what we are doing is growing the next generation in the most positive way I can possibly say. So thank you for your support, all of you. You are the support that adds to our preschool and aftercare program. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Now we're going to, following our traditional worship, grow, serve, we're going to move on to serve. And Jackie and Malia and Sue. All right.
Yeah,
the whole team's here.
Well, not quite the whole team. I have to say that I'm very blessed to be surrounded by a wonderful missions team, and I see a lot of you here today. If you'd raise your hand if you're on our missions team, several of my members, and then Sue Pantnode and Malia Kikahuna are our co-chairs for missions, so they're going to help kick things off and give you a quick run-through of what's going on with Serve.
Okay, so the first one is, Casey already kind of hit on it. Halloween Town is coming up, but a part of that is the food drive that goes with it that is going to be benefiting Hope Villages of America Food Pantry. So we encourage you to bring your food items. Along with that, I just want to encourage you to volunteer also, plug that again, because for this event, we have more people from the community here on our campus than any other event throughout the year. So come help us welcome the community.
Thank you. Our local and our global community around us, we have a lot of needs. And what we do a really great job of, church, is responding to those needs. And we can't be everywhere all the time and serve everyone. We do remain very faithful and in our relationships with some of our local organizations like Habitat, our military connections. We continue our relationships with Children's Home and Hope Villages of America, Panther Pals. The Sew for Kids is just a wonderful program here we have as well. Our prayer quilts, Fresh Start, the list goes on. So we thank you for your support and for demonstrating how to be the hands and feet of Jesus.
We have always had a traditional huge turnout for our teacher breakfast in the spring. We have a long history of supporting the school system, public schools, in any way we can. We have, over the past couple of years, added a day that we do a mentor training from the school board. It's been well attended now a couple of years in a row. We always let people know it's one of the biggest things we can do is be the volunteers that are needed as in the school system for lunch pals, for mentors. More and more, there's so many kids that are in need of that, and just that half an hour a week sometimes is all it takes to really change a child's life. So we love to continue doing that. One of the things we are going to change up a little bit this year is we're not going to have our mega teacher breakfast like we usually do. It is well received, but it tends to hit at a very busy time in the church calendar, and not all the teachers can get there. We've kind of taken a poll from them, and very often what we're told is it's wonderful, but we actually enjoy a little bit more encouragement during the school year when they need it. They're celebrating too when the school year is over. So we are this year doing things a little bit differently. We're taking a little joy and encouragement out to the schools. We have one coming up for Ridgecrest Elementary School and Seminole Elementary School. Family ministry team is kind of heading that up, but we would love anybody that really that's near and dear to their hearts to contact me or any of the family ministry folks. And we'd love to put together a schools team that specifically has a passion for that and wants to go out and help with delivering breakfast to schools or little treats or notes of encouragement, that kind of thing. So this coming year, you will see a little bit of a change where our focus, how we focus on that encouragement for the school system. Another change that's coming up a little bit is just the way we talk about our serving ministries. Many of them Malia already named. We are going to have a little bit of a different way of looking at it, kind of like our worship, grow, serve, to kind of simplify things. We'll be looking at hunger, housing, heart for kids, and helping. And pretty much all we do will fall under one of those umbrella type pillars. So that way too, when somebody's new to church, sometimes they'll sit with me or Casey and say, well, you know, I want to get involved. And then you try to decide, you know, what everybody's passionate about, where to plug in. And we think this might help everybody, you know, kind of decide what's important to them. Is there an area they want to focus on in particular? So you'll kind of see that church language, and on the, you know, new website as it's unveiled, you'll see those. Just a little restructuring, but we're still partnering with our same partners as well as adding new ones.
Good, and we just want to let you know that we have all kinds of ways to serve for everybody of different capabilities, and we have a sit and serve group. So this is able for people that can't maybe stand and be too active. They can sit and help assemble things. So we have opportunities for all age levels and capabilities.
We found that peer-to-peer connections and relationships work really well. So we'll combine that with our serve opportunities. So for example, we'll have opportunities for Big Church to have relationships with Habitat, Shepherd's Village this year, as well as the kids ministry will have a relationship or opportunity to serve the Florida United Methodist Children's Home. And our youth, our student ministry, will be having an opportunity to serve with the HEAT program. It's the homeless initiative in the Pinellas County school system. And so we're really excited about those opportunities to have peer-to-peer connections. So that really does conclude what we're talking about today, but I do want to end off on a personal note. Recently, we were at a missions meeting, and we're going over some results of our of the disaster relief. And recently, we've had disaster relief from Florida and from Maui. And on that personal note, some of my family members were impacted, and here we live locally in Florida. We're all impacted here. when I said that you demonstrate every day, all the time, what it means to be the hands and feet of Jesus, you responded so thoughtfully, so swiftly. And from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you, Anona, for responding in the way that you did, because all together we were able to raise nearly $50,000 in disaster relief to our local and our neighbors further away in my home state. So I appreciate you.
Thank you, ladies. Well, moving right along, Jeremy is going to come wow us about buses and buildings and whatever else the trustees are up to.
Thank you, Ed. McMahon, Ed McMahon, never mind. All right. Some of you guys might get it. Yes, we're going to talk about trustees, folks. But before we begin, I want to first start with a big, big thank you to our Mr. Scott Magnus, Director of Campus Health and Safety. Scott does a phenomenal job here. Let me tell you, this is a challenging campus to keep track of. This is a 10-acre campus, multiple buildings, including buildings that are over 100 years old, that need repairs, that need all kinds of work done, and just the constant challenges of keeping up with everything is daunting. And he is up for the task and makes it work. But I want to start with a quick little question here. And if you can answer it, I actually have a prize for the winner. But here's the catch. If you serve on trustees, you cannot answer. So any trustees members, you may not answer the question. How many air conditioners do we have on the Anona campus? Who thinks they know how many air conditioners? How many? 36. Wrong. Higher. Yes. 15. He said 36, and I said higher. And you said 15. Okay. Oh, 50? What was 50? 50, Mike? Or 50, nope, higher. Not quite that many, not lower. Lower than 75. Boy, you guys are not good at game shows. I'm learning that really easily here. You would not do well on The Price is Right. All right, so lower than 75, what else? Lower than 62. Ooh, we're getting close, 57 lower. 56 lower. Lower. 52 higher. 53, we've got, who said it? Who said it? All right, over here we have a winner. You win a water bottle. There you go, from the choir. Pass that along. Whoever said that over there, you get a choir water bottle. We have 53 HVAC machines on this campus that need repairs. How many people remember this past summer, on the lovely cool summer that we experienced here in Florida? The record heat. In fact, I'm pretty sure we broke a number of records with heat. In relation to that, guys, we also had some significant wear on air conditioners. So one of the things is that Scott has done a great job, but has had to really work. We had over 15 separate units needing repairs and multiple units needing replacement. So we put a lot of work into air conditioning this summer and this fall, and it's still continuing on. So just be aware that's one of those challenges we deal with. If you are in a group here on campus, work with our teams as far as setting the ACs and all those things, so we do keep good use of those, so we're not overusing them. We have some that tend to freeze on us, so it does help when we keep track on the temperatures for those. So it was a hotter summer, but we also are keeping up with that. A couple other notable projects to let you know. Our chapel conference room has been completed. If you've not been over there, you need to go see it, guys. It's over by our chapel complex. This is the oldest building on campus. If you see the placard, it is the oldest in-use worship place in Pinellas County. And we had a team last year. Our original dream was to have it fixed up for 150th last year. And if any of you have ever done construction or rehab in the past few years, you know that timetables mean nothing. And so we finally got the job, I think, pretty much finished here. It looks wonderful. It's a great space now for small groups and for classes, even for our aftercare program. So just is a great multi-purpose space that also has a lot of history to it as well. So that's been done. We also purchased a new bus. So we are in need of vehicles here. Our ones that we have are wonderful, but they've got some issues and they're aging. And so back actually in April, we purchased, the trustees purchased a bus that originally was supposed to be delivered this summer. Guess what also is delayed right now? That's right. How many people have had issues with parts or cars, or especially large trucks? Maybe not standard vehicles nowadays, but especially when you're talking buses, special orders, things like that. There are unfortunately more delays. Originally it was supposed to be here summer, then it was October, then we just heard there are continuing parts shortages, and now the UAW strike. And so between the two of those, we're probably going to be January before we see the new bus. But we're hoping to get it as quick as we can. It's been ordered and it's on the way. The other thing we want to update you on is our beautiful memorial garden, another place if you've not had a chance to see it. We do encourage you to see it. It's right outside the doors, right here in Traditional. It's been here at the church for a number of years now. I forget when it was put in. Probably back with John Hires, wasn't it? Bob Cronk and John Hires. So we've had it for a number of years. It's a great place just to sit and relax, as long as there's no traffic on Indian Rocks Road. But it's just a beautiful garden. And so we've done some work on that. They replaced the pavers and then put actually a little concrete walkway, so it's safer coming into the entrance. And then there's some pavers on the inside that are being repaired and replaced as well. And I think that work actually is underway this week. I'll double check with Scott on that, but it's coming up. Oh, today. They were out there today, so they're actually in process. So if you get a chance to go see that when it's all done, it's just a great place to see as well. Looking ahead for our trustees, a couple things. You all have seen our community playground out behind our Wesley Hall there. It's been doing great with connections with family and kids, continuing to use that throughout the week and weekend. One of the second level projects or second stage projects we wanted to do with the playground was to have an independent restroom available out there. So that way, especially on weekends, if families are out there with their kids, that they can have a restroom accessible even if the office is closed or the campus is not open during certain times of the day there. So the good news is we've got the drawings done and completed for that. We're now in the process of finding contractors and getting bids and all those kind of things. So it is looking at that as well. Don't have a timetable, but we're hoping for that to move along as well for our playground. And then hopefully in early 2024, there'll be some much needed roof replacement. This is a scheduled thing, but over in Wesley Hall, where our children's service is, the main roof over Wesley Hall is fine. We actually replaced that just a few years ago. But if you look, there is a ring of classrooms that go around Wesley Hall, and that's a whole separate roof system. In fact, it's multiple roofs and multiple air conditioners. And so it's been a project that they've been looking at and trying to find the best time of the year and the best ability to get that done. So we're hoping, Scott's been working on this one for a while. They're still kind of hoping that early first quarter of next year, we can get the teams out here, get those replaced, especially in the cooler weather. We find it's easier to find roofers during that time of the year. So they're working to get that done hopefully in early 2024. So that's just a little update of what's going on in the life of trustees. And I believe Richard is going to come forward at this time and talk about money and finances.
Finances? What? Finances? Anybody? 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 So normally, guys, we would have people doing, the chairpersons of our committees handling these parts of this. So Debbie is out of town right now, so she was unable to do the trustees one. I'm stepping in for Kevin, who's our chairperson, who's also out of town on a business trip right now. So I get to talk about finances with you all. Are we ready? Well, that's how I feel about it too, so there. All right, so let's see. We'll have some things that'll pop up on the screen. So what I want to do is sort of compare our giving this year compared to last year to start off with. So our cumulative giving for last year in 2022, you will see pop up on the screen, I think. There it is, $1,166,209. That is up through the end of August for last year. Where are we at this year? Everybody say, Richard, where are we at? I'm so glad you asked. Take a look. We're at $1,125,439, which leaves us a little bit behind last year by the tune of about $40,770 or 3.5%, which is actually tracking pretty good. All right, so for a good chunk, the first 7 or 8 months of the year, compared to last year, we've been sort of doing a little flip-flop. It's almost like 1 week to the next, you might be up 10,000, down 10,000, up 20,000, down 20,000. We're now getting to the point where we're going to be running into some stuff, all right? So I'm going to talk about the bad news. Has anybody heard about this thing called inflation? Inflation, right? All right, so there's a cost increase. Just like you guys are experiencing cost increases in your life, obviously the church is as well. Everything costs more. And what we're so thankful for is that we have people that are making things possible. It's like bus. There's contribution towards the bus. There was contributions towards us redoing the Chapel conference rooms. There's people that are stepping up. The chapel library has new shutters inside of it that were donated as a result of somebody stepping up and saying, you know what, I wanted to do something for the church. And they sometimes come in and sit down with me and say, is there something I can contribute to? And so we've sort of helped direct different initiatives that we're looking to do. And the beauty of what we've got now, we've always talked about room 110 and how special that room was because it's just a nice room to meet in. But it was the only nice room for adults to be able to meet in, right? So to now have the chapel conference room, it literally is capable of the same types of things as room 110. If you go into the chapel library, it is also getting to that place where it's the same capability, so that we now have 3 wonderful adult classrooms for people to be able to have gatherings in, whether it's classes or we now have the receptions. One of the things I really was hoping for out of the redo of the chapel conference room, which is the old chapel, we do receptions in there all the time for funerals. And it was just nasty. That's all it was. It was just a nasty room. The carpet was a mess, and there was chairs lined along the walls. And if you haven't gotten over there to look at it now, look at it through the eyes of a family that has lost a loved one, and they're walking into that room now compared to what it looked like before. And that might help you to just see the heart behind the why. We're trying to make it where people are able to experience this church in wonderful ways through some of the most significant times in their life. So bad news is inflation. The challenging news moving forward, so I've been talking about the one-to-one, right, that we're tracking pretty much one-to-one. The challenging news is we're coming into the time of year when we're going to be competing with last year's special event, which was the 150th anniversary. All right, so we had a lot of special gifts came in last year that was a wonderful thing for us as we were going through 150th year of ministry right here in this town of Largo that probably will not repeat this year. So that's a challenge that we have to face as we're moving forward. The good news is that giving from last year caused a surplus. All right, so we had, I think it was $264,000 surplus that gets put into reserves for us to be able to set aside in case we need it. So we have that sort of sitting there to help us through if we have a shortfall. Rather than think shortfall, what it actually gives us is a buffer. Okay, so if we do not make as much as we did in terms of income last year, we have a $264,000 buffer to match to last year. Our budget went up by $80,000 this year, so that shrinks that buffer to about $180,000, but we do have a buffer in there of giving last year compared to this year that the Finance Committee, and I do want to do a shout out for the Finance Committee for all the work they do to help make it possible for us to operate week after week, month after month, year after year, but we're constantly watching the numbers and saying, how are we doing? Overall, so this is where it sort of gets scary, but just hear it in the context of what I just shared. Our budget, we are $296,000 short at this point, which is not typically unusual, all right? So when you think of the giving at a church that happens to reside in the wonderful state of Florida, what do you think happens during the summertime? It drops, right? So we lose a lot of our northern friends. They head up, they have their own churches up there, attendance shrinks, on top of the fact of people taking vacations. Our giving, if this is January and this is December over here, our giving tends to go like this a little bit towards Easter, and then you go through summer, and you go down drastically, and the Finance Committee starts not having any nails, right? Because we're all chewing on our nails. Then we come up into November, and it's slowly creeping up. And the hard part for us in terms of planning is that December ends up looking like this, typically. All right, so you get a lot of gifts that tend to hit in December, but you're trying to plan for the 2024 budget now, right? And you never know. So there's a wonderful faith aspect of every year saying, all right, well, it looks like this, and spike at the end, and we hope that we get through that end point. So from my perspective, we're looking at pretty normal year. We're at a significant downfall right now. We have reserves that are able to cover that downfall because we know it's going to be there every summer. So it's not a problem writing checks or anything like that. And then we come back out at the next year, and it sort of just starts the cycle over again. That all makes sense? All right. So brief mention of the budget that's in process at this moment. So the 2024 budget is in process. Susan will be speaking a little bit in a moment about the raise that the staff are getting. know that that's in the equation. I'm probably looking at about a 2.5 to 3% increase to budget just from cost and trying to pay our staff. So we're going to have another a little bit bump probably come into the next year. I think as I explained at a previous meeting, we have done a lot of cuts as we were going through COVID to get us down right size as we were going through COVID. Any cuts at this point literally get to the place of staff. And I mean like significant departmental staff levels. That's the only way we'd be able to get the big enough numbers if we had to do a cut. Not saying scary or anything like that, just saying that's where we're at. We're not at a place where you can pull out $100,000 and fix things now moving forward. So how about attendance? How many of you think our attendance is tracking well right now? How many think it's not going well? All right, fair enough. So let's talk about attendance. So what we're going to do, I decided to go back to 2016. I want to give a shout out to Kathy. Kathy, who's sitting over here, she handles all of our attendance figures for us and helps me to stay on top of this. We're now taking it to the staff group. They see it every quarter, so they can see it literally by service or by area. So we know how many people are attending in the early service, the contemporary service, the late service, how many combined, how many people are online, how many people are in the youth program. We can look at all those aspects and be able to talk to staff. And the whole point isn't to be able to say, ooh, it's bad or good. It's if it's doing in a difficult way right now, why? And how do we address that? And we start working on ways to be able to address it. If it's going well, you can still say, why? What's happening? What are some of the things that we're doing that are differently that are resulting in something that's positive happening? So let's look at attendance from 2016 to 2021. You will see the numbers pop up as we go. And what do you notice in a trend? All right. If I went back past 2016, you'll see that same trend. We're in an over decade-long downward trend in terms of overall attendance. That's just what has been. So we can look at the numbers, pull them down, and you will see this decline. Obviously, you see a significant hit in 2020. Why? COVID, all right? So there might have been the fact that we might have still been trending down regardless, but the reality is COVID hit us. 2021, we started to reopen, but do you remember the wonderful time when you used to have to make reservations for church? Anybody? Yeah. All right, so we were struggling with that, and people were just not attending. Whether it was online or in person, we were in this decline. What I want you to see is something that you may not be feeling in terms of our attendance. So we're going to have it pop up now and include all the way up through now, and what you'll start to see is something a little bit different, okay? So when you're feeling the dis-ease of attendance right now, I get it. I feel it too, all right? It's still not, we're not back to pre-COVID numbers, let's be real. We're not there. If you look at pre-COVID, so let's say 2019, we're at 45,580. We're not back to that yet. The good news is we're tracking in a positive direction. I see it pretty much as the beginning of a smiley face, right? You've got a curve that's forming and you have a nice smiley face that's coming. This is combined attendance, guys, and one of the hard things for us that sits in the room, just like right now, there are people attending right now you cannot see, and they're not in heaven, all right? They're looking at me through the screen, through the TV, right? You know, through their computer screen. We don't see that attendance, and what we're noticing is we look at those numbers over time. During the summertime, our online attendance surpasses our in-person attendance. So the numbers that you see in here, that you see in contemporary, they're being beat probably by about 55 to 60% to 40 to 45% in terms of in-person. And then that starts to flip as our northern friends start to come back. Plus there's people that just worship online all the time. I've talked about my Uncle Brent and Aunt Marilyn before, right? They're up in Virginia. They're watching, they explain it to me. So they watch the contemporary music and then they turn off for the sermon and then they come back. See, you're thinking that's a judgment of me. See how you guys are? They come back, thank you very much. They come back for the traditional and they watch the whole late traditional. So that they get the whole thing with the sermon at the tail end of that. There are people that are watching literally out of state that are out of state all the time. There's people that are shut-ins, homebound, that we're creating a whole new ministry for that I'm going to be excited to talk about probably at the next all-church meeting. there's things that people are doing that we don't get to see. So imagine people sitting next to you in the pew right now, that there's twice as many people in the room, and that's the reality of our attendance. Regardless, our giving is staying sort of in that flat range right now. Okay, so even though we're growing, it's in the flat range. Last but not least in finance, I said I would give an update on our retirement plan situation. So those of you who were not a part of our last meeting, we have discovered an error that goes back to 2006, that people were eligible for retirement funds to be able to be given to them to the tune of 5%. All right, so the church had been paying for full-time employees to be able to get that. Those people are fine. The contract shows that we're supposed to be paying every person that works 20 hours or more that 5%. And everybody who's under that 40-hour threshold, we've had to go back to 2006 and look at each year, look at every employee, see how many hours those employees worked, and if they're 1,040 or more per year, that's 20 hours per week, they are eligible for a 5% contribution from the church that was never paid. Okay? So we have this process we're going through with our retirement plan provider, which is called WestPath. The information is now into them. When I say we have done that work, Richard has done none of that work. That's largely Elisa and probably Kathy. I think that's the two people that have worked on it, so another shout out to Kathy. Elisa's on vacation right now. They have put in hours, and I can't even count the number of hours that they put in order to identify each one of those employees and to walk through and say, here's the people that are under 1,040, here's the people over 1,040. That is all sent into WestPath. WestPath now has to figure out how much each one of those people are owed. The baseline number cost to Anona right now, so if you just think of the 5%, how much people are supposed to be paid, is around $500,000. So we already know we've got about $500,000 that's meant to be paid. On top of that, there's this thing called the stock market that's being tracked during that time that has gone up over 2006 to 2022, the end of 2022, all right? So it stopped at the end of 2022. We've got to pay that earnings too, and that's the calculation that's being determined by WestPath now for each employee. That's why it's not just a quick, we turn in the numbers and they come back. There's formulas that they have to run. If a person worked from 2006 to now, it's actually pretty easy. You can just run the whole number. But if a person worked from 2007 July to 2010 May, we have to know exactly what those numbers are, all right? So that's the numbers that they're working. Anticipation, this is Richard just off the top of his head, I'm anticipating probably a $1 million to $1.2 million hit to the church. On the good news side, we have reserves. We have an ability to be able to take something like that, but it would wipe out our reserves. Another good point, we were eligible for what's called the employee retention credit. So we submitted in for that. The Methodist Church did a teaching, and then we ended up hiring the company that did the teaching for the conference. So it sort of took our hands off of it. Let's give an objective person who's familiar with this the information. We've received 2 checks now. So the last time I think I said we had 1 check. We've now received 2 checks, which is over $400,000. And there's still a potential for a 3rd check out there that because we retained all of our employees throughout the whole COVID thing, that's what's making this possible in combination between the employment of the church and ACDC. So that's combined employment of all, roughly about 70 to 75 staff on the campus, that we're able to get this money back, and that's able to go towards, if we need, that cost. But that's still floating out there, and as I told you last time, I will continue to be very transparent about the situation, and as I know things, I will do my utmost to get the information out to you whenever we have our all-church meetings. You all with me on that? Is there any questions? I'm going to pause for a second because I've talked about quite a few things regarding finances. Is everybody okay? Some people might have heard that for the first time. If not, you can also reach out to me. I'm happy to sit down with you. Jeremy's aware of the situation as well, and we can sit down with you if you want to get a little bit more details on it. So that is where we are on those things. Our reserves are actually pretty solid right now. So we move forward both with faith and confidence because of our faith to say, It's another bump in the road. We've had bumps in the road. We walk in faith. We do the right thing. And that's part of the beauty for me. I will say this again. The teams, when I brought this to them, the immediate response was, we need to make this right. And on the backside of this, we didn't have to, literally. When I called Westpath, they said some people hang up on us as soon as we tell them, right? So as you say that, well, here's the circumstances. They just hang up and they move on, and do the new thing. Some people try and roll it out and say, all right, then effective this coming year, we're going to apply this and we're going to do this, was another thing they said. And our leadership, I thank God, had the integrity to say, no, this was supposed to have been done, and we're going to make it right moving forward. So I think we owe an applause to all of our leaders as well. So thank you guys for what you do. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Susan, who is one of our chairpersons who's not on vacation, and she represents our Staff Parish Committee.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Garcia Nikolova, and I am your SPRC chair. If you're not familiar with SPRC, the best way to look at it is it's kind of like the HR department of the church. So I have a few things to share with you tonight. I went old school and did it on paper. And I actually wrote it. Now I got to be able to read my handwriting. So first, and you may have heard this before, maybe in sermons or during announcements, that for quite some time we were looking for a nursery director. And it had been out there for a while. Well, I am happy to announce that we have hired a new nursery director. She started early September, so yay. Her name is Jen Bryant. Some of you may know her. There, yay, there she is. And we are so happy to have her with us. Now, Jen was interim for about 3 years, I believe. And she also left her job at Pinellas County Schools, so she has tons of experience, not only in the church, but also working with children in the schools. So welcome, and we're so glad that you're with us. The next item I have, I'm going to sit down. It's more comfortable. I like it like that. Is our financial secretary. So some of you may know Erin Paget. She was our financial secretary, and she has gone on to a new journey in her life. I believe she's gone to work for her brother. So great opportunity. We wish her well. So Erin did hold that position, but like I said, she's moved on. For those of you that are maybe not familiar with that, some of the duties that she had was the receipts of funds for the church. So that would be, now I know we say offerings, but I grew up calling it collection, so I'm going to say collection. Receipts for collection, counting and tracking of the collection / offerings from Sundays. And we are going to be looking to fill that position. So the skill set for that certainly is going to be some bookkeeping experience. So we just wanted to let you know that that's out there, that we will be looking to fill that. And if you know anyone with that bookkeeping experience, you might want to put the bug in their ear. Next is our traditional organist and director for music here in the traditional service. So as you know, Nate has gone on to other things as well. A team was put together by Jeremy, and I believe it consisted of choir members and anyone else from the music department? Karen from SPRC. Yes, and Karen from SPRC, who's also a choir member. So you got 2 for 1 there, to help craft the job description and to really narrow down what we were looking for and what we needed in that position. So there's been 4 searches. We're on the 4th search. So we had the first 3. There were some candidates that looked like that they would be someone who would be a good fit. And I believe we brought in 2 for interview, past the Zoom interview level. So it would be like they came and actually played and worked with the choir and played the organ and the piano for their performance interview. But there were some issues there with, to be honest with you, money, because it is a very specialized position, and looking across the board, if you go nationwide or even in this area, the salaries vary. I think it went up to like 82,000. It varies. I mean, it's really, it's pretty crazy. So I'm going to let Jeremy speak a little bit more to that because he's really been in the depths of that. And we've also looked at re-looking at the position and maybe crafting it to look a little bit differently.
I'm going to sit up here with you too at the table. I like this. All right, so here we
It's
go.
the Jeremy and Susan show.
All right. Yeah, actually, it's been a little challenging process, guys. The reality is, we've done 3 full searches, and salary was a part of it. So, we were looking at what we were offering back then was it was a healthy salary, but not quite as commensurate with other positions of that caliber. The other thing we were facing with is moving to Florida. As you all know, cost of living in our area. If you've been here for a while and you own your home or you own your condo or you've been renting for a while, we don't see quite as much the costs for a new person coming in of trying to find rent or to find a home and a place to live, and they're very significant. And the third reality is Florida is, for some individuals, it can be a challenging place now to move. And so we were finding some real challenges there. And so as we got through the process, we stopped after the 3rd run and said, okay, we really do need to look at this. And the team reflected. We took this to staff parish for some discussion and analysis. We took it to our finance committee for a discussion and analysis. We did make some changes on the package that we are offering to try to keep it a little closer and commensurate to what would be appropriate for this area. And we also tweaked the job description a little bit too, to really expand it a little bit to make sure that we're inclusive of our children and youth, the next generation. We felt that was important for us, for the candidate to come involved, to really help us not only with our current groups and adult choirs and orchestras, but also to help grow up the next generation with us. That's an important culture of who we are at Anona. So we've just, about 2 weeks now, launched that new job description out there. We've had a few candidates that have applied, and the committee is currently looking at those. We are hopeful that this process, sometime between now and through probably the end of this year, we may arrive at a potential candidate that would probably come on board if that were successful, looking at first quarter of 2024. So sometime in that January to March timeframe. So that's kind of where we are with that.
Thank you, Jeremy. And last but not least, now we all know, this is not going to come as a surprise, that we all love our staff here at Anona and that we are completely blessed to have them. And one way we can show them that is financial increases and raises. So if you have been following the inflation and the COLA increases, I believe that the last time I looked, the increase for COLA was 3.2%. So one of the things that SPRC looked at recently was raises for our staff, because it's one thing to be blessed and to have them here, but we also want to keep them with us. And with Jeremy just talking about how difficult it is to find someone for the traditional director, you have to look at salary. There's just no way around that. So at our last meeting, I believe it was our last SPRC meeting, we had a lot of discussion about raises for our staff. And the SPRC came to consensus that we wanted to present to finance a 5% increase across the board. So we had a dual meeting with finance last week or the week before last, with SPRC and finance, and we gave them our proposal. And I am happy to say that our wonderful finance committee was so gracious and approved the 5% increase across the board for our staff. And they deserve it, and we want to keep them with us. And other than that, that's all I have, and I have no idea who's next. Thank you.
I'm going to say 2 things in relation to stuff that Susan talked about. One, the organist. We are not a mega church, and the challenge that we face is our competition and the quality of people that we had in the form of Nate. So getting another Nate is going to be difficult, and that's the challenge that I think Jeremy and his team are running into. I think we just need to be honest about that reality. Is we cannot compete with some of the churches that we're losing some of these candidates to One of the candidates went out to California, and it was 118,000 or something like that position. We can't, right? So that's the challenge that committee is facing or that group is facing right now, is trying to say, where do we fit now in that mix? So that's a wrestlement for that one part. The other thing I'll say in terms of the raises, you may not be aware, there's times where the staff over the past 5 years has not received a raise at all. And when you think of increases, when we're saying we're keeping up with inflation, so like last year they got a 5% increase in an 8% year. They end up losing to the inflation. And we kept all of our staff for the most part in spite of that, you know? And there's a beauty of the commitment that they carry, and what we're discovering is if we do lose people, it costs a lot more to get someone new than the very person that we're replacing. And in my heart, that sort of makes me sad, right? Because we're saying we're going to pay a new person who's coming in more than the person who just left, that walked through COVID with us, that walked through some of the toughest times in the life of the church. And now we're going to pay this next person more. So I'm thankful to Susan, I'm thankful to the Finance Committee, while trying to balance that with fiscal responsibility, right? And that's always the challenge of saying, how do we keep those things together? And we're trying to walk that delicate balance. Thought I'd give you a little bit of an update on the United Methodist Church. So I want to give you a little bit of oversight. So this is in light of the vote that will be happening, that was supposed to happen in 2020, 2019, 2020, and then 2024 is now coming. So this was supposed to happen. It kept getting delayed once again because of COVID, which is causing an ongoing struggle, right, which we are aware of, over the sexuality issue, the rift that is happening with the Methodist Church. So I've done a little bit of research. I also had a meeting with a bishop, and I'm going to sort of walk through some of the things that we know, okay? First, I want you to understand the structure of the Methodist Church from a national perspective. So just to be able to see on the screen, this is the layout of the Methodist Church in the United States. There's 5 major jurisdictional areas. The Western jurisdiction includes Alaska and Hawaii. Sorry, they didn't include them in there, Malia. I can't believe they don't have a picture of your state on that map. I was looking at that, I'm like, really? But this is the division that is happening. So as I walk through some of the things that you might see up here a little bit, or if you have questions about it, I'll talk about aspects of how different jurisdictions are being affected. Let's move to slide 2, please. This is a study from June of 2023, United Methodist Churches in the United States. In 2019, there was 30,541 United Methodist churches in the United States. That's the whole picture that you just saw across all of those jurisdictions. Sitting in 2023, we now have 24,386. All right, part of that is attrition. That's down 6,155. Part of that now, guys, is disaffiliations. And probably the largest, obviously, chunk. Typically, like we might close in a year in the Florida Conference 3 to 5 churches that would close when we go to Indo Conference. You have churches that are opening, and you have churches that are closing. This year, we're losing a few more, and we'll get into the details of that. But that's a 20.2% decrease in the size of the United Methodist Church, U.S. Let's talk about the types of churches these are. So if you move to the next slide, you're going to see a thing that says average worship attendance. A little bit hard to read. Here's the weird thing. See that little, the numbers? the median, so when I was looking at this, the median for church attendance is 38 across the United States. So when you think, when I said we're not a mega church, in the Methodist Church, we're a large church, because the median attendance across the United States in Methodist churches is 38. And if you just sort of walk along this wonderful thing, it's the size of the church. So how many 1,000+ churches are there in the United States? From a Methodist perspective, 1% of us are 1,000 in worship. When I was talking about attendance earlier, we're just now getting back to the place where we're hitting 1,000 in attendance. So we're in that 1%. So when I'm talking about large churches in the Methodist Church, we're squeaking by on that level. And then it's you have 2%, and then it's showing the disaffiliations throughout that time. The next one, the regional distribution of churches, and this is why I wanted to have the map up there. This shows the number of churches by jurisdiction and then the number of departures from. So the green column is showing how the United Methodist churches, percentage-wise, how they're distributed across the United States. The yellow column is showing how many are leaving out of those areas, okay? So 18% leaving out of the North Central Conference, 11% out of the Northeastern Conference. And you'll notice it gets bigger in the South Central, the Southeastern, and then the Western is a small percentage of our churches. Even though it's a large landmass area, the Methodist Church is not large out west. Tracking with me so far? Okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the readings. There are 56% more disaffiliating churches from the South Central jurisdiction and the Southeastern jurisdiction than from the other 3 jurisdictions combined. Okay, so the largest weighting of people leaving are from the South Central and Southeast. We're in the Southeast, being in Florida. That's where the biggest hits are happening. So you might therefore wonder what is happening in the Florida conference, and that comes to my meeting with our bishop. So he was meeting with the large church pastors from the Florida conference, gathered together, and here's what he told us. We are losing 30% of the churches in Florida through disaffiliation in this time. With that, they said that it is about 35% of the giving in the Florida conference going. So I've had people come up to me and saying, well, obviously it's the small churches that are leaving. You know, it's not the money that's leaving. It's the ones that we're supporting. It's people that aren't paying their apportionments. That's not real. The reality is that the numbers, when you look at them, it's pretty much 1-to-1. In terms of size of church, in terms of giving, in terms of apportionments, all those things look about 1-to-1 from disaffiliating churches compared to churches that are staying. If anything, we're losing a little bit more money than we are churches, which tells you that we've lost some large churches along the process. We lost the #1 church in the state of Florida, has disaffiliated, and that was over in Tampa. So this is where the Methodist Church is hitting. What he said was that obviously we're coming into a hard time, but he also lifted up a few good things. I really liked his language. He said the future will be lived or lost on whether we lead people to Christ and learn to love like Christ, to remember who we are, what we're about, and to actually live that out. And he started talking about differences. And the differences aren't necessarily bad. He described them as friction. Right? And friction is not necessarily a bad thing. And he was describing it in terms of woodworking. And he was talking about sandpaper and how you have to have like a 60 grit paper in order to get that first layer of wood filed down. And then you move down to the lower parts. In the midst of our conflict, in the midst of our differences, sometimes you have the 60 grit moments, but you really want to be moving down to the finer strands of sandpaper that you're rubbing each other, but it's not harming each other. You're actually creating something beautiful, and to be able to walk out of it in a beautiful way. So our bishop, I think, is leading in a wonderful way in a very difficult time, gathering together the churches. He's trying to still meet with people. I said one of the things I would give him a shout out for, in other transitions for bishops, they normally have listening sessions. So they'll call in different groups. So they call in deacons, which I was before. They'll call in the large church pastors. They'll look at all the camp people. They'll pull in all these groups and listen to them once. Our bishop is listening over and over again. He's got meetings scheduled, I know at least with the large church pastors. I've got 3 more already scheduled, where we're talking about the Florida conference and what can we do and how can we do things better and to be able to live out our calling of faith in our time, and we're not giving up. We're not giving up. We keep moving forward, which is sort of the heart that I've been hoping you've been hearing in terms of a little church called Anona, that we keep moving forward. Do obstacles hit us? Yeah, just like anybody else. Obstacles come and smack us in the face every once in a while, and challenges come and hit us in the face every once in a while. By faith, we get right back up. How do you get to church being 150 years old? It hasn't been all, flowers and Ice cream, it's been a challenge for generations of people to be able to come through. And I imagine that there was other conversations over the course of the 150 years of saying, how are we going to get through this? How are we going to get through this? How are we going to get through this? And the biggest part of the answer to that question is by faith. By faith. And seeking to be faithful. And you combine those two words together, and we navigate any storm. And we worship a Lord that calms the storms. And so as we're moving forward into the new year, I want to talk just briefly about the heart of Anona. Because the heart of Anona is good. It is good. I get to look out. I was talking to the women's Bible study. I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Thursday group I was speaking to when I said this. But I get to look out into your faces when I'm up here. And whether that's announcements, whether that's preaching, I get to look into the faces. And sometimes I know the stories associated with the face. And I know the faith story that goes behind that. Or I know the heart that you have for a certain mission or a certain project. And it brings me joy. And I know it brings God joy because of the hearts that you all bring. How do we keep doing that? Well, part of the beauty is we're growing again. And that's because your heart is shining. We're growing in a time when other churches, many of them, are not. So can we celebrate that? Yeah. Can we ask, sort of like I was saying, when we look at attendance, why? Yeah, we need to. Can we look at areas where we're not growing at the same rate or they're in decline? Yes, without beating anybody up. And say, you know what? No matter where we're at, if we're in a good place, if we're in a not so good place, can you always do better? Yes. So we're talking about the heart of Anona as we go into 2024, and we're going to refocus. It's almost like back to the basics. What is the heart of Anona? What's our mission? What are the things that drive us forward? Well, our mission is to love God and make disciples of Jesus Christ. And when you hear that, love God is worship. Make disciples is what? Grow. For the transformation of the world is serve, right? The heart of Anona is worship, grow, serve. And so we're going to focus at the beginning of the year on worship, grow, serve, live. And then hopefully have that carry us throughout the year and saying, how do we get back to the place of being able to connect with our roots, the not just our roots, but the roots of our faith. These are the things that are important from Jesus' perspective. You know, saying the plural of Jesus is hard. Jesus said it's important. There we go. I didn't have to say it in plural. Those things are important for us to be able to live out and that we get to. It's why we have a choir that filled the choir loft this past week, in spite of, right, the loss of Nate. When I went up to the choir, they're like, what was her name? I didn't really get her name. Amaris. I walk up to the choir, and they're like, we got to hire her, right? We had such a good time, which is a shout out to Jeremy, right? He's yeah, absolutely, give applause. All of our staff people are seeking to do this. Our volunteers, y'all are volunteers. Many of you that I can look out and see the faces of now are volunteers that say, you know what, there's a place I can plug in and make a difference. What I'm going to encourage you to do is if you're plugged in, grab a hand of somebody else and bring them along. All right, so that'll be our task. If you're a volunteer already, find somebody. I won't even make you go outside the church right now. Find people inside the church you know that we need to restart. Hey, I heard we need to have a hospitality team again that causes any door that a guest walks into has a person with a smile on their face greeting them as they come in, saying, welcome to Anona. Welcome to family. We need people to be able to serve food. We need people to mow the lawn. We need people. There's places that we can step into and make a difference, that just a little bit of effort. I get to see it in the Wednesday crew out there making the quilts every week. I get to see it in classes. I got to step into Jacqueline's class this week. Last week, I got to step into the women's Bible study. They asked me to teach the women's Bible study. You don't know what that means. I think I'm the second man who's stepped inside that class to teach. The other one was Charmaine's son. And they let me come in to teach the group. Isn't that awesome? That whole group is a group of volunteers now leading that class. It's not just Charmaine. Jacqueline's done the same thing. She's gotten to where she's got a team of people where she can hand stuff off to. That's what I'm talking about in terms of grabbing the hand. You find somebody else and you make a disciple of what you do and you help somebody else to do it until they can do it on their own. Can we commit to that in the coming year? That's the question. It's not rhetorical. Can we commit to that in the coming year? All right. Then find a hand right now and let's pray. God, there's been a lot of positive things tonight. There's been a lot of challenging things. There's things that we look at and say, how can we handle that? And we handle it by turning to you. We look at the things that are possible, the potential, the dream, and we say, we can do some of those things because of you. And what we want to do in terms of the sum of the things is narrow it down to the things that you want us to do. For us to be able to listen to your heart, your spirit for Anona right now. And for us to seek to be faithful in that walk. Lord, I give thanks. I give thanks for an entire congregation that just lives their heart out, their heart of faith. They support friends. I get to hear, God, and you get to see the moments where like a food train happens. Because somebody knew that somebody was in need and it just happens. And it's because they were plugged in, because somebody took a hand and they had become a part of a group and they became known. And they became loved. And we were able to step forward to make a difference. Help that heart to grow within us. And not just within us here tonight, but for our congregation. For all of us to be able to turn and say, there's something good happening here. It's a God thing. And you want to be a part of this. Take my hand and come follow me. Lord, we lift up this church and all of its people and its mission, and we just surrender it all to you. And we do it in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. And we all say, amen. David, you want to close up?
Yeah, I know. I'm keeping you past the prayer. That's like not in the rules or something. I'm sure most of you know I've been around here as management, leadership, flunkiness, I don't know. For 10 or 15 years, I've had some sort of a leadership role, and for the last 5, 6, I don't know, I've been chair of the church council. And it's been a blessing. It really has. I've enjoyed serving alongside some great people and some great volunteers and some good staff and all of you. But I'm sure you've seen a lot of our staff and a lot of our, well, excuse me, not our staff, our leadership. We rotate them around, and they come and they go, and that's good. That's healthy, new blood. And you probably have seen me up here for a long time and thought, good Lord, man, when is this guy going to rotate? Well, I am going to rotate. This will be my last all-church meeting, and Susan will be taking over in my stead. I appreciate you guys being gracious with me when I'm clumsy or awkward and tell really bad jokes. I hope you'll extend that to her as well, although I doubt she'll be clumsy or awkward or tell really bad jokes. But I do ask that you would show her the same grace you've shown me, and I just thank you all for the opportunity to serve here. I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be around. I'm just going to be sitting out there instead, at least for a year or so until I see what else is next, because I can't sit still and be quiet for long. But I did want to let you know so you didn't just come in here the next time and go, where's the goofy guy? I'm around, but Susan is going to take over and do a great job for me. Okay? Go home now.